I'm Marianne Brown with W Design Collective, and this is Brent. Brent, if you want to introduce yourself.
Yeah, Brent Hull with Hull Homes and Millwork. And so I'm excited to do this. Thank you for organizing this. This will be fun.
Yes,
I think we're like-minded in a lot of things. And so hopefully we can help and encourage people to build better and design better and think about it.
yes,
Hmm.
yes. I am a huge fan, as you know. I think we've done one class together. I feel like maybe a couple other things, but I'm always
Yeah,
promoting.
no, it's a mutual respect.
Oh,
I
thank,
appreciate that.
thank you. Um, and I think one of the things that I really appreciate from you is that I think you're really passionate and very educated about the home building process and historical details and timeless design. You've obviously written and studied, but you're also very practical and you're in the field. So you're not just like a scholar. You're actually working with materials and I feel like you're always posting about it and helping people with their houses. And it's very nice to have someone who's so experienced be able to talk to people in a way that we can all understand it. I appreciate how you break it down for us. Maybe what I would love to talk about first is like I think you have a book. Your book's called Timeless Design, or the one that you
Yeah,
just
in a
released.
timeless house in an instant age.
Okay, so that's obviously like something you're very aware of. I think a lot of us don't want to waste our money and build something and then oh, there it is, there it is. Okay, Brent, tell me just like high level, what is it that makes the timeless house for you? Why are you passionate about that in the first place?
Uh, Well, thank you again, and this is gonna be fun. And so, the the idea is in my background and training is in preservation. So I I think I learned how things were built 250 years ago, and I am, applying those things to, how we should build today. It was always shocking to me, um so my phone won't bleep. It's always shocking to me, working on historic buildings and thinking about how we used to build, and then driving through a new neighborhood or looking at the new things that were being built. And to my eye, they were shockingly, uh, lacking the detail, the quality, the care, the craftsmanship that we used to have. And so the I felt like I traveled enough, especially in Europe, that you go into those places and there's these layers of time. There's materials that communicate. There's a philosophical reason they are what they are, and it's just it's beautiful. And so the then my brain kept working like, well, what is it that makes a house special or timeless? And especially today, when, I say in the book, I say builders think their houses are well designed because they sell. And homeowners think that because someone put it together, it must have been designed. And neither one of those things are true in my view. Right. And so
True.
the homeowner, especially, and I wrote the book for the homeowner. And by the way, it's if you try to look on it on Amazon, it's like $700 or something. Someone told me they have to go to our website to get a book. So if they're
Okay.
it's $20 or $25.
Okay,
Anyway,
we'll link that. We'll link that.
yeah, and so you begin to then look at houses that we love, houses that were, and they're really pre 1940 houses for me, for my eye. And
Hmm.
so, and a successful house today, because certainly there are people building successful houses. Um, they have a narrative, they have layering, they have a story, they have a clear definition and style. My belief is that we don't have a recognizable architectural style after 1950, after the ranch or the mid-century modern. The modern
Yeah.
farmhouse, you know, is that a style? I don't think so. So
We're both like, ugh.
like a house
Yeah.
built in the 80s, what style is that? It's they're called McMansions, they're called other things. And so we've been building for a long time uh, without a philosophy, a design ideal. And so the Thomas house is a house built around a narrative, built around ideal, okay,
Okay.
so that your clients, when they have to go pick up hardware, right?
Mhm.
And they go to a showroom and there's just, 3 walls of brass and all these different colors and all these different things. How do you start narrowing those things down to figure out what you should do? And if the client's sent to those things without any direction, that it's a rustic house, it's a simple house, then, and just if Colonial Revival, because it's easy, my daughter's got a house in Nashville, and it's a 1940s kind of it's an inexpensive Colonial Revival house built in the early 1940s. She's trying to pick hardware. Well,
Mhm.
what hardware does she pick? Well, if you go to those colonial ideals, a simple house in that period would either be iron or brass.
Mhm.
Okay. You can throw out all of that other stuff, throw out all those other thoughts and designs and any kind of, carving or anything on there. Nope. That's not what's going to be there. So by having an ideal, by having a tradition, you can declutter. I wrote in the book, there's a great book called The Paradox of Choice. And this guy, it starts the book. He goes, I had to go buy a pair of jeans. And I get there and let's just say he's wearing 501s. And then all of a sudden I saw there was boot cut. I saw there was stonewashed. I saw there was all these different things that were, and he had to try them on. He ended up leaving, not buying a pair of jeans because he was overwhelmed by the process. And I think our clients are having that paradox of choice where they're just so confused, it's so overwhelming that they end up going, "Well, what's in my budget? Okay, $10 a knob. Okay, where's the $10 knob thing?" And they end up choosing based on a price or a detail
Yep.
because they don't know how else to do it. And so, anyway, building a philosophy, building a narrative, and then executing that with good materials
Yeah.
is how you start.
Yeah. That makes sense. Do you like why don't we have a style probably after the 1950s? Do you feel like there's just nothing left? Like we've done it all? Or
Well, I think that uh, my belief is
Mhm.
that after it's pretty fascinating. And I heard a guy, a professor at Charleston College, tell me this for the first time. I've heard it. I've heard it a few times since. But after World War II, classicism ended up getting a kind of a black stain on it because it was associated with Mussolini and Germany, and
Mm.
and Hitler was a classicist, and Albert Speer was his architect, and the things he designed were actually quite beautiful and wonderful, but um, what happened was is that it was almost immoral to do classical things, because of this fascism, because of the association that happened. And so, like the Bauhaus school was a modern school in Germany, and Hitler closed the Bauhaus school. Well, Walter Gropius, Mies van der Rohe, uh,
Mhm.
a bunch of those guys, Marcel Breuer, were teachers there, and they moved to America. Gropius teaches in the Harvard School of Design. Mies goes to Chicago, and you have this European influence of modernism that takes over the schools. And today, there are very few architecture schools that train classical and traditional methods. And so, in my view, we're not building. And so, not only, so modernism happens. There's a
Okay.
rejection in the schools. Then what happens is that the ideal for great architecture became this individualist genius, okay, who is going to create and develop things that you know. And so, if you go to the schools, they talk about being way out there. They're talking. They're I don't know. I'm sure you have it too, but the architecture students that come to us and say, "I'd like to intern or like to work for you," they're looking at their portfolio and it's a mess. It sticks in the air. It's just like,
Yeah.
you don't understand what you're even
No.
doing. So they're pursuing things that are irrelevant, and often ugly for what our clients want. And so the architecture, I read somewhere that part of what um, when when they were moving away from architecture in the 1950s, it was to be a great architect, you were not studying residential design. You were not
Yeah,
involved in residential design.
yeah,
The same time you have, uh, William Levitt building Levittown, and the builder takes over design. Okay, the architect's pushed away and or leaves, and so we don't have a strong designer in the residential field, and so what we're building are the commercial equivalent of strip malls, right?
yeah,
Builders
yeah.
know how to build, but they don't know what to build. And so they're just following, okay, well, that looks hot. That looks hot. Black windows. We're gonna put black windows in everything. And
Yep.
so that's my pet peeve right now, by the way. So
Oh,
it's
amen. Amen.
it's so we're doing things that the tail's wagging the dog. The reason we don't have a design is because there's not a designer involved in the process, and so it's we're lost. And so you look at that period from let's just say if you look at it post 1950. I'm
Mhm.
sorry, I'm talking too much, but the post 1950, the 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 builders learn how to build cheap and fast because of the housing crisis after World War II. By 1970, 1980, you have McMansions and starter castles, okay? And then it just kind of wanders after that time where houses are being built very fast, very
Mm.
cheap, they're not being crafted. And so, how do you build a timeless house? You have to practice those things that we used to understand and we used to know. It's classical traditions, it's traditional construction methods, and it's a philosophical style that practices the past.
So, do you feel like a lot of what's driving things, say, like you're saying, you get these architects out of architecture school, they're trained commercially. That's the first issue, I think. Like, if you're good at designing a elementary school or something, you're not, that doesn't translate super well to a house, right? Like a residential. So I
100%.
think that's like one of our issues. But I've also wondered, like, do you think people just want to do something different? Like, I feel like when I have clients come to me and they're like, I love right now, I feel like I have a lot of clients that are like really into like the Cotswolds and they love this like
Me too.
European stone house and like cottages and whatnot. And I totally understand it. I agree. I think it's a great aesthetic. The proportions of those houses, like when you walk inside, they have 7 foot tall ceilings if you're lucky. The stone is not stone. That's we don't build like that here in the United States, at least. There's all these things that are actually going to become barriers to it. So then I think maybe what we do is we say, well, we're not really going to build a Cotswolds home because we're going to have a modern house and we want 10-foot ceilings and we want all these modern amenities and we're not even going to build a cottage. Like at least in Utah and a lot of areas around me, people are building 10,000, 12,000, 15,000 square foot homes. I mean, I'm thrilled if someone wants to build a 5,000 square foot house. So really we're taking the concept. Like I think of a lot of people, they're like, I want a timeless home. I want it to be based off of this historic architecture. And I go to Europe and I love it and I fall in love. And then I bring it over here and then I go, well, let's like put some like modern windows into it since we can't fully replicate it and we don't really want it to feel too on the nose. So then we start kind of like messing with it. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I feel like that's a lot of what I spend my time doing is like, how can I reinterpret this for today, for Utah or Georgia or wherever we're building at the time. But maybe that's how we end up with some like kind of interesting things is that it's the interpretation or it's that people don't want to do the same thing over and over again. Like they've seen a salt box type house reinvented 7 different ways. And so they're just like, I'm tired of that. I want it to be kind of different or unique. I feel like a lot of clients want things to be different. So do you run into this? Like, how do you like, do you feel like that could be part of it as well? Or like, how do we make things feel not too, like, themey, because I think that's my issue too, is, like, I don't want it to feel like we don't live in the Cotswolds. You're in Utah. So, like, some stone makes sense, but, like, maybe the stone is here. It's that reinterpretation, and so, like, when someone hears, like, classical and you're like, "Yeah, this is a colonial home," or what like, all these terms or mid-century modern, and, like, yeah, that does help them narrow down their decisions, but then they're like, "But I'm also, like, it's 2026," and, all that. So
Yeah. Uh, Great question. And I think it's a totally a reality. It's totally it happens. Um, I'm from the school, or I believe that um, uh, my good book.
Are you trying to be PC about this? It's
Yeah,
okay.
98% of houses that we're building today aren't very good.
Yeah.
Okay, and so a high volume. I find that clients will turn their nose up on uh, a classical ideal only because they have only seen it done so poorly that they just assume that that's what classicism is, or that, the people don't know that a column should have entasis. They don't know that, a porch should have a porch beam. And so they don't understand the proportions of all those different things. And so I think the client needs to be educated, first of all.
Mhm. Yep.
And so then, like what you were describing, you got a Bobby McAlpine book behind your head.
Oh, yep, yep.
He does that really well, okay?
Yep.
He takes those European models and plays with the proportions, plays with the details
Uh-huh.
so that, they're new, they're fresh, and still beautiful, right? And so, I don't think there's many good Bobby McAlpines out there, and so and yet there's probably thousands of guys who think, "Oh, I can do that. Oh, I can
Yes.
do that." And so they execute those things poorly, and, they they, you know, they execute them poorly, and they don't work, and they're not successful. So what you're
But Brent,
describing.
yeah, go
Yeah.
ahead. Sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
I don't wanna interrupt you too much, but I do wanna say, like, the elephant in the room is money, in my opinion. Like, yeah, they can't not everyone can hire Bobby. Not everybody has the investment dollars to do the materials and hire the artisans and do all of that. So I think they're like what I like appreciate that they have good taste. Like they're like, that's a beautiful house. I want to do it like him. There's other architects that are like, I think he does a really great job. So I do feel like part of that reinterpretation isn't just like that they don't understand it necessarily, although I think that is part of it, but, like, that it's the money. They're like, "Well, this budget is driving things in a way." So, realistically, like, your daughter is maybe more in, like, a starter area of her life or something, like, I'm
Yeah.
guessing she
Right.
didn't not the owner of Microsoft, whatever. She is trying to figure out, I've got this dad who's, like, so into this, and she probably cares about it too and loves it. Would you just say, like, there's just certain styles, given the budget that you're in, don't even go there? Is that how you approach it? Like, what is accessible? What can you pull off in a very authentic way? Stick with that. There's just some things like do homeowners need to understand how expensive the homes we work on are? And then that way they could maybe understand like you're not going to have a Cotswolds home unless you have a very, very high budget because stone is the most expensive material. Full bed stone is expensive. Your foundation is going to be twice as much. Your like there's so many details that goes into that that they don't even understand. And I get it. Like I wouldn't have known. So how do we
There's
help
only
it?
probably 4 people that can do a true thatch roof either, and so in the US, and so, yeah,
Right, and right. And do we
yeah,
even need that? Do we want it? I don't know. But like you have to be like you have to be like a patron of the arts and like have that kind of investment ability. So
well,
how do you do it?
I've had clients who've said there will be no budget, right? And we're gonna get what we want. There's gonna be no budget. They always end up having a budget. And so,
Yeah.
the job fatigue at the end, okay, I'm done, time out, get me out of this thing. And so everybody has a budget. With my daughter's house, it's in 900 square feet, right? It's teeny, built in 41 or 42. We ended up spending on her front door. We bought a carpenter lock from Heritage Metalworks in Pennsylvania. It was a handmade uh, uh, iron lock with a small brass knob on it. It was gorgeous. Okay, almost $2,000, $1,800. Now that's a huge, you know, that was a huge expense. Okay, relatively for the work on their house. but it's on the front door, and it changes. It's a very subtle thing because the doorknob is not 2 3/4 inches off the face of the door, settled in, centered in the style. It's actually over in the rail, in the lock rail, and so you walk up to it and you go, wait, why is the knob not in the normal place? And you go inside, and it's a beautiful rim lock on the inside, and it's very simple on the outside. That to me is the kind of decision making that you're doing that can transform your experience, even in a very small house. And so there are. I would say it's not necessarily the stone that I would be fighting for, but the way the stone is laid up. And
Mhm.
so it's all of these subtle layerings that you're trying to introduce, you're trying to manage. And of course, I would also tell them to for less square footage. And so, we're trying to, we're probably building in the our houses start at 500 a foot up to 1,500 a foot, and they could go more, right? And
Yeah.
so that is a lot of money, and it's got to be managed. But whether their budget's 10 million or whether their budget's, half a million, I think that there's just careful decisions you can make along the way. Hardware is a great one that can make a difference. Windows are very important. Stonework's important, but material choice and having that match the story of the house, I think, is real important. Um,
Yeah.
but everybody's got a budget, and it's just about careful decision making. I think. I think.
Yeah. 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 I mean, I'm with you. So do you feel like if um, you know, an architect that you admire right now or yourself, like if you're given a small budget, do you still feel like there's a smaller budget, that you could feel very happy with the product? Like, do you ever see newer homes that you can tell maybe weren't, the top tier team involved with it, but you're like, it's possible. Like, tell me it's possible, Brent, that we could do this.
I do think it's possible. I think that, I think I can get too critical of the current building environment, but it's like hardy siding. Okay, I hate hardy
Yeah.
siding.
Yep.
It's thin, it's cheap, it breaks. Everybody thinks it's this wonder board, and it's not. And so, it's a fake product meant to look like wood. It costs more, okay? It costs more than a wood siding does. And yet we've kind of forgotten how to have magic with wood siding because I think if I built a 10 by 10 structure with wood siding, I can make it last longer than anybody can with the hardy just based on the way it's installed and the way it's put together. And builders are not embracing the history of what of our craft so that they don't know how to do things like that. And so it is possible, but it requires an expertise that can help someone make decisions about, the materials that they put on a house. And so I think my background studying historic preservation, I've seen a lot of different house styles and seen the simple things, very, very simple things that are in a colonial house, okay?
Hmm.
Let's say a 1740s little cottage, and I've been in them, and I've seen how simple they are and how charming they are, and it's like, "Oh my gosh," if you wanted to they have wide plank door things around a mantelpiece, a very simple mantelpiece. I was like, "I could rebuild that with plywood and 1 by 4," and because it's so unique, because it's so distinctive, there's very few moldings on there. Oh my gosh, this could be replicated and make a huge impact in a room. And so, because if you don't have that experience, you don't have the past, then you go, well, what do you want here? Oh, well, let's go find a Georgian mantle. Let's go find a federal mantle. Let's go find a Victorian mantle that becomes inappropriate architecturally, inappropriate, ugly, or it doesn't meet the opportunity. And so,
Yeah. Yeah.
eh,
It's possible. Like you said, there's certain
it's
styles. Yeah, I do think there are certain architectural styles that will be easier to pull off, like you're saying, like where there's wood moldings,
correct.
instead of like a limestone carved fireplace. Like if you're like, I want to do some French, like whatever. Like that's, there's maybe a version of that that's less expensive, but um like you said, it's
Well,
just education is a huge part of it, like understanding where the the trend of whatever they're seeing on Pinterest, or like where that fireplace or the hardware or whatever, like, they like it. Just like you see a shirt or something, you're like, I like that. But like when it comes to like clothes, let's say, I know what's appropriate to wear when a lot easier than I do with houses. So it's like, I know, like, you dress up, you're going to a wedding, you dress up, you get fancy. If you're going to go golfing, you wear like, you have to wear a collared shirt, but it's sweat wicking material, whatever, right? Like that part is like, we know that you don't wear the same dress you wear to the wedding to the golf game. But I think when it comes to houses, people are confused as to like, no, you putting that fireplace mantle in this house is like you wearing a fancy dress to a sporting event. Like, it doesn't make any sense in this room. It doesn't, like, y your moldings don't support it. The whole, like, vibe of the room and the architecture, like, it just doesn't belong here. But, like, I guess it just takes education. Like, I don't know.
no, I think your analogy is spot on. I think it's perfect because, I'll talk a lot about fast fashion, fast food, fast architecture, this cheap architecture, strip mall architecture, um, that is ruining things. But I think I would, uh, I mean, going back to my designer problem in the home building industry, there are still great designers designing clothes and doing things for everybody.
Yeah,
And whereas it just imagine the world of clothing where star architects or star designers ignored, you know, 98% of all the people out there to dress, you know,
just the yep.
1%. And so you would end up with these people wearing things without, they would kind of be looking at that going, I guess I could copy that, but there's no direction. There's no leadership. There's nobody helping. And with clothes, I mean, there's etiquette things.
Yeah.
And an etiquette would be a traditional detail or a classical detail that we still practice because it's appropriate, because it's beautiful, because it works. So I do think we're starved for good designers. Are you um, concerned that we're houses are unaffordable now and or good
Oh,
designs unaffordable?
yeah. Very, very concerned. Very concerned. For the reason that you're saying, okay, so, like, I have a lighting line that's made in the United States, and so it's a little bit more, it's a little bit more expensive. I don't think it's out of people's price range. It's kind of like what you're saying with your daughter with, like, the hardware on the front door. Like, it's an investment, but it's not like, you know,
Right.
you can choose to invest in it a little bit, but it is more expensive because it's made here and it's hand done and, all that fun stuff. So I'm always looking at lighting. There's a lot of lights like on Etsy that are made out of China that they're taking, they're copying me, they're copying other people. So like, yeah, they're like making it for the masses, like you're saying, like fast fashion. So they're looking at some of the expensive lines like Urban Electric or whatever, and they're trying to recreate it in a less expensive way. But so there's some of it is trickling down, I guess I would say, with things like lighting, hardware, maybe, but hardware, brass is just brass and it's expensive. Like, we just can't get cheaper with certain things like you can with fashion because it's like we're using materials from the earth, we're using artisans. Like there's kind of like, and this is a home that's supposed to protect you in like an earthquake. And it's like you can't dumb it down too much and have the integrity of it. I don't
I
know.
think
Like
I
so
think
it's
what
really expensive. It's just super expensive. I don't know how to like you go into like mass production build houses and I seriously like I shut the door and I feel like the entire thing is going to fall over. Like no kidding. Like you're in one room and you can hear someone in a completely different part of the other house. Like doors are thin and they're not like just everything is so and it makes me sad. It makes me sad for the people that took the time because it's still money and it's still kind of it's permanent. Like the biggest waste of money is building a not great house for $350,000 that someone used to tear down, literally tear down in 15 years because it is not worth like once you like run the numbers, I literally could build this house again for the same amount that it would take me to remodel it. Like we're just not, we're like upside down. I don't know. Anything that's worth building, I guess I think is expensive. Anything that's not worth building, I just have to close my eyes and like, I like literally, I probably would cry. I like mourn it. I like mourn the house. I mourn the money spent, the time spent, and everybody because I'm just like, this is not how it was intended to be. I don't think this is how we meant to have structures. Like, and I just like, I'm sad.
But I think it's yeah, I would comment that I think it's voices like ours, and yours that will help people expect more and hope for more. I wrote my last Substack article, that do you know the, the warranty provided for a new home for materials and workmanship? It's 1 year, okay? 1 year, okay? We have cheapened and lessened and pushed down the quality of the house so much that is just junk. And so the problem is the customer. I wrote my book, Timeless House, for the homeowner so that he would understand what's wrong, what happened, why
Yeah.
houses are the way they are, what happened to this industry that all of a sudden I can't get a good looking house and it's cheap when I do get it. And so it's like today we're all eating, hamburgers and French fries, and there's no well made food. My daughter, who's doing my brand and managing, she's pointing out that, Dad, there's a whole movement about no plastic in the kitchen and buy for lifetime and things that I think you and I would go, yes, thank you.
Yes. Yeah.
We love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So I think there is, I think you and I feel like we're out in the field, talking and no one's
We're like,
around.
oh, anybody.
Um, but I do think that these small little messages of like, no, 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 not everybody's doing that. No, no, no. We can help you do this. We can help you. It can be beautiful. It can work. Is a message, and I think that if we can start building beautiful things, showing what it's establishing a bar, because unfortunately there isn't a bar right now. There's no, anybody kind of reaching for the brass
Yeah.
ring. And I think what we're trying to do, I'm speaking for you, is we're trying to, build in America, not build the cheapest, the junkiest thing that that matters to people. And I think, especially as we, anyway, I just think those things matter, and it does feel lonely at times, but I
Yeah.
do think that, it's the right message, it's an important message, and I do think people are listening. Um,
That's
I
good.
do. I do. I
That is good. As you were talking about, as you were just saying this, I had a thought like, you know, you were saying like, good houses were built before like 1940s, essentially. And maybe what we lost as well is patronage, like the people with the money. And not that like, I went to one of the Newport mansions recently and I was kind of like, there's really cool moments, but this kind of does feel like at the time new money just like mishmashing some things together, right? Like it's interesting, it was good. There's a lot of good things, and maybe this is a hot opinion of mine that you're going to disagree with, but I was kind of like, yeah, this feels like some of a lot of money taking a bunch of European influence and putting it together. But it did feel like maybe those that did have the money to invest cared about, like they hired the right team and whatnot. I think maybe the part that makes me feel so sad about what we do in America is like they'll be, like interior designers or something that I follow. They have a very big following. People really like them. Maybe they'll have a line in Target or something. And then I see them do a house that gets put all over the internet and it's expensive. It's not inexpensive, but they've missed the mark and they aren't educated. And so if the people who can afford it aren't caring about it, there's no way that's going to trickle down, I guess. Does that make sense? Like if it feels niche, that like, oh, Brent and Marianne, like they're just like into classical architecture. They're just kind of like into things being built well because they're just like that's like their thing versus like no, it's a thing. It's not even like it's not that I'm just like into it as like a fun hobby. It's like it actually is like a practical thing. It's not just an interest. It's like your house will last 150 years. Do you care about a house lasting 200 years? Like, do you really like, you don't want to just like waste? Like, so it is, it's like a philosophy, but I do, what makes me sad is that some of the loudest voices I feel like are not advocating for it that are in our industry in some ways. And the people that do, and they are talking about it, and it's very cool. I think it feels um elitist maybe to people or whatever. Like, is it trickling down? Like Bob Vila from like the old house shows on HGTV. Like when I was growing up, I actually think people still talked about it on some level, but like I don't know. I just feel like the popularization of things is like just make it cool and fun and look good on Pinterest and like even people who have $5 million are doing that, which makes me sad.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I look at that and I used to get a lot more worried about HGTV, about the crap that was going on there than anything. But have another perspective. Um, the if you look at, I'm a history major and then preservation guy, so I'm always looking at the past. If you look at from 1950, we go into the McMansion era, 1980s. From that time, from the end of the 1980s, when design was much worse than it is now, in my opinion,
Okay,
the,
good. That's
the
good news.
quality may have been a little better, only because materials were a little bit better than they are today, 40 years later. But I think the houses of the 70s are just a joke. They're just terrible. Anyway, so in 1991, the ICAA started in New York. Christine Frank was its first director. She told me the first office was a closet in New York, at NYU. Seaside happens in 1984 or 1988, somewhere in
Yeah.
there.
Okay.
New urbanism. And so you begin to see a growth of classicism and a growth of traditionalism. And so I look at the Annals Beach, Seaside, Rosemary Beach, the things on 30A, and you look at what good design has done to that area, where it used to be cheap 1950s to 1970s beach houses that were plywood and just junk are totally elevated. And so good design there, costly design too, um, showed people what beauty is. And that's
Yeah.
really what I'm fighting for more than classicism or anything else. I'm probably a traditionalist more than I'm a classicist, but I'm really driven by beauty. And I think when people walk there and go to those places and see that stuff, they do go, oh, yeah, this is a little bit different. Why am I walking with my kids? Why am I why did we park the car and we're on bikes. I haven't ridden a bike in 20 years and all of a sudden I'm on bikes in the seaside. And so there are things like that are happening that can make people go, wait, that is better. That is beautiful. I also see, and you would know this better than me, this could be a false statement, but I think that there's been a rise of traditional architects in the AD world, that, maybe 10 or 15 years ago weren't, it was all modernism and the occasional traditional things. But I think, Gil Schaefer and Bonnie Williams and some of these people that practice that traditional things are getting a larger swath of the coverage. And so, anyway, I would point to things like that. Um, and look, let me say
Definitely.
it this way
Yeah.
too. This is a battleship that will not turn around very quickly, and I don't know if it'll ever turn around. And so it's more just, there are voices, there are people that
Yeah.
care, that understand, that appreciate the beauty. And I think we just have to keep, you know, at our horn, just sharing and teaching, and things will turn around. I mean, I think, you and I are both busy. I think
True.
because we love beauty and
Yeah.
our clients love beauty, and that's what we're chasing. That's what we're pursuing because so much is ugly today.
Yeah. Agreed, agreed.
So,
And I do have to say, like, so my husband's on the investment side of real estate. And, when I was at Seaside, we went to Seaside for spring break this year. That was my first time going because Utah doesn't
oh
tend to go to
wow,
Florida as much. So like it was new for me, but lovely. And I totally get what you're saying. And as I'm walking this area, I'm going, who was the investor who believed in this concept and chose to invest in having the architect and chose to invest in the houses. And I really hope he made a lot of money because I do think money is a big part behind what motivates people, just full stop. Like, and let's be clear, Brent, like we're talking a lot about like traditional and whatnot, but like I love a mid-century modern house. I love a modern house. I love like Japanese architecture. I love minimal. I love and that is also very expensive. Like those like a curved
true,
detail
good
on the
point.
baseboard, the
Point.
whatever, like there's different architectural styles. We're not necessarily, I don't think we're saying it has to be like one type of home. I think we're talking about well-built homes that come from a historical standpoint, maybe of like the history of whatever it is, even if it's Frank Lloyd Wright or
Sure.
whatever,
Yep, yep,
right?
yep, yep.
Um,
100%.
so I would love a seaside that was super modern, but like good modern architecture, not just like boxes like that. Oh, they look like shipping containers that were placed on
Did you
top
go
of
to
each
Alice
other.
Beach? Did you go to
Yeah, I
Alice
went to
Beach?
Ellis. Yeah, yeah.
So that to me is a little bit more a contemporized modern with traditional roots. I mean, and so that's whimsical fun. There's interesting details there that aren't traditional. They're brand new, but they're based in a style. My whole thing is like if the great modernists are that are celebrated, are Frank Lloyd Wright, Mies van der Rohe, these guys, you got to realize that those designers, those architects were trained as classicists. They were trained as traditionalists, and so it's foolish, in my opinion, for the big schools to be um, uh, turning their back on, and there is hostility towards traditionalism. When I was on the ICAA board in Texas, we tried to have
Okay, sorry. So you were talking about like how Frank Lloyd Wright and Mies van der Rohe were classically
so
trained.
those are trained as traditionalists, and so there is a hostility there, but they did beautiful things. The Farnsworth House, if you've looked at it in a design book, it's actually based on a golden rectangle, right? All those little rectangles and squares in there are based on classical ideals, and so they it can't be an all or nothing. It can't be a um, yeah. It's just there's opportunity, and I don't know why I got all started on that. I think your
You're
point
saying that you're
your
okay,
point
like
about that even modern design's expensive was where I started. Yeah.
yeah. Well, and that the investment into it. So like the people who have the money to like, I have a friend whose father has a bunch of land here in Utah that he's going to do a development. And really, even though he's going to build houses for other people or just sell the lots, he really has an opportunity to set this up. Like he's going to have the vision for it. Whatever their first house is, like they're doing like a spec home and they're paving the driveways and doing things and they're going to call it something and all that, right? And I was just like, "Will you please call me? Because I feel like you're gonna go after what is going to sell, and you're gonna have a realtor that will tell you, oh, you know, Mountain Modern sells in this area or whatever." And it's not that interesting. And to your point that you said at the very beginning of this, just because it's sold and just because someone made money doesn't mean they're going to make money in 10 years from now, because that trend will go away. And so you sold it once. The person who developed the development got out. They sold all their lots. Everyone built a house. And maybe those people sold it once within the first 10 years and they got out. And they're like, see, great development, success to be had by all. But then the people who bought it second and that style went out and the house wasn't built that good in the first place, they're stuck with the problem. 30 years in, that development is nobody wants to live there. Everybody has to put all this money into remodeling these houses, and they're all 7 to 10,000 square feet. That's $1 million remodel. It's already expensive because the land was, whatever. And so now we've got a mess. But I'm like, are people just not thinking forward? Like, I think the problem sometimes that I see is like investors, maybe like I need them to care. I need them to like, I want to find a way where they can make money. The people who are making these developments, the mass production builders, like I want, those are the people, honestly, in a lot of ways that I really would like to convince that and find a way to say this is profitable. But everyone wants to make money right now, get out, and like they just kind of don't look back, and then
Well,
all these homeowners are left with
yeah,
it.
we're not a patient culture, right? We are as Americans, we're not patient. And the European wine industry. My brother and sister-in-law are, or sister and brother-in-law are in the wine industry in California, and they're you know, in France, they'll wait 30 or 40 years for a bottle. Americans will never wait that long. Well, just give me an old bottle, I'll buy it, and I'm ready to drink it now. And so we're not patient. And so Americans, unfortunately, I wanted, when I got out of North Bennett Street, I wanted to um, craft and do these beautiful things.
Mhm.
Um, Unfortunately, a lot of people don't want to pay for that, and a lot of people don't care. And I think it's an Americanization that we are an extremely efficient culture. We're driven by capitalism. We're driven by wanting to make money, and the back to the beauty thing. We don't we appreciate beauty, but we'd almost rather travel to Europe and see it and then come home and not have to, because it takes too long. It costs too much.
Yep.
If you've read The Omnivore's Dilemma about food, Europeans spend you know twice as much on their food as Americans. Okay, and you think about the processing of food and how unhealthy food is for us today with the preservatives and everything else going into it. It's not just our houses that are struggling with this.
Yeah.
It's a cultural thing that Americans do. I mean, I met with a developer yesterday or the
Yeah.
day before, and we were I mean, here's his development. Okay, so it's a strip mall. Okay, I don't know if you can see that. It's an ugly strip mall, right? And
Yeah.
uh, he's got, uh, he's got the wood siding that was real popular for about 10 years. It's stucco. It's cheap stucco, and he's got weird things. And what I said to him is, look, he wanted some design ideas, and so I said, look, you can go do exactly what you just finished doing, 10 years ago, and you're going to be calling a design team back in 10 or 15 years because it's dated. And you
Yep.
go, what I want to do for you is do something timeless, do something so that it was in Highland Park, great place in Dallas. It was upscale. He could
Yeah.
spend money, but he has strip mall. I mean, that whole book, The Geography of Nowhere, where you pull up in front of a strip mall, you go, where am I? I could be anywhere in the United States, anywhere in the
Yes.
world, because they all look the same. And so we've got to create places. We've got to create um, uh, destinations. We got to create stories, narratives that people care about, and people want to be there. And so we, unfortunately, to your point, we're cheap, okay, and we love making money, and we don't care enough about beauty. And I think that's what you and I need to fight for. Is just like, okay, yes, you can do that, yes, but if you spent a little bit more money, or if you, I've shown people how they can spend less money and actually make more money because the things they're chasing are so silly. They want to throw
Yeah.
all those moldings into a room. I was like, you don't need to do that. Just let's
Yeah.
establish the proportions in the room. And I could do it with 3 moldings, and you're trying to throw, all this stuff in there, but it's ill proportioned. It's going to cost a bunch of money, and it's a waste. And so, anyway,
Yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, I agreed. And this like Highland Park, that you should be able to invest in that. You should be able to do a
100%.
brick building or something that you feel like might be a little bit more timeless. The town I live in is called Holiday within Salt Lake City, and we have like a little city center, and they whoever, and I'm very grateful for them, said it has to be made of brick or whatever. Like they chose these materials. One of the grocery stores that was going to build here, like through the biggest fit because they're like, this is so much more expensive than if I did it somewhere else. But I'm like everybody, like all the values around there, and everybody, like it. There's always a tenant. That grocery store's done excellent. Like Holiday as a town. People are like, it's such a cute place. The kids walk down there, they all hang out. Like it feels like you're saying they created a place and they kind of fought for it and they put it in their, so like cities can advocate for it, developers can advocate for it, we can advocate for it. And like you said, like maybe as consumers, I know that people like you and we travel to places, we stay at hotels, we eat at restaurants, we go to the bookstores, we choose places very purposefully to be surrounded by beauty. And I feel like we try to be patrons of all those places where I go, I see that you invested a lot more and took more risk because you invested so much more in your place. And so I'm going to buy from here. Like the bookstore in Boston, oh, why am I forgetting what it's called? Have you been to Boston? And there's like a very famous bookstore that's blinking. I'm blanking on the name. It's
I
very well designed. It's super expensive.
Bartles books. Is it Bartles?
No, I'll think of
I
it.
got a
I'll put
I
it.
got an old bookstore there called Bartles. It's really good.
Okay. But it's like 3 stories. It's just like this beautiful house. She had restored it, and it's so nice. And it is the most successful bookstore in America, from what I understand. And everybody, she was just, I think she had money to invest and was just like, I'm going to put it in. Like, it didn't make any sense on paper. Like, no investor would be like, yes, let's a bookstore that is not that profitable in the first place, and then let's put so much into the build out that it's like ridiculous.
Yeah,
But
if you there are examples of people doing that, and they're incredibly successful. Trammell Crow and Old Parkland in Fort Worth, I mean, in Dallas, spent, 4 times the money. I mean, building a classical campus, with domes and towers and all these things, and you can't get in there, it's so expensive. But he established this line. One of the reasons why this other developer called me, because thankfully, Trammell Crow set this bar that, oh, I guess you can spend that much. I guess people will go there. And so, oh, I guess I'm going to do this. If you've been to Branson and Top of the Rock, and the golf courses that the guy who owns uh, Bass Pro Shops is the one who's putting all this
yes,
money in there. And anyway, he's a developer, tons of money, and I remember going there the first time. I was like, "Look at this ironwork. That's amazing ironwork, and look at this stonework." I was blown away by the quality. But people flock there because they love it, and they're just like, "It's beautiful." And anyway,
yep.
so
So
I
it
think you and
works.
I
Like
have
we just need
to.
to convince people it works and that they need to invest in it, both on a residential level, both investment. It's called Beacon Hill Books. I just
Ah,
remembered. Anyway,
I
um,
haven't been there, so that's a great recommendation. I love it.
okay, you need to go. It's beautiful. You'll love it. It's obvious
Can't wait.
like it's just a little special place. And to your point, these people are creating places. Like and I really think like you're saying the Bass Pro Shop owner, like he has already maybe made his money. And so he's like, I'm just gonna put it into there because it's a love. And
Yeah.
then it ended up being successful, but people are so scared. So I guess like to kind of wrap this up, don't be scared to invest in your home, in if you own a business or if you're a developer, do not be scared to invest in it. I really think it pays off because, to your point, people want connection, people want beauty. There are these like classical ideals, like you don't need to
And
reinvent
people
the
will
wheel.
pay more for beauty. People will pay
Yeah.
more for the beautiful. Yeah.
And it's beautiful, which if you buy one of Brent's books, I'm trying to think. maybe you talk about this in your timeless home book, but proportions, like you're amazing with proportions. And a lot of what makes something beautiful are proportions, even on a person's face, how their eyes, their nose, and their mouth all lines up, how their body, like, proportions to humans is what creates a lot of beauty, correct? And so understanding those proportions, they're the same. Like you're saying, the golden triangle, there's all these things that you're so great about educating people on, which I always push people to your YouTube channel where you
Thank you.
explain it. Because I'm like, once you understand this, you'll never see life the same. And I think everybody, like this should be taught in like the junior high or high schools of understanding
Yeah.
proportion. You can break the rules however you want. You need to know the rules. And there really are just rules, correct? To what is appealing to the human eye, to how we live and how we function, right?
100%. Yeah, well said. Well said. And realize that the client takes time to educate them. I mean, I do all those flip up videos, and
Yeah, I love
we'll,
those.
we'll then tell people, hey, it's going to cost this much to do the plans. Oh, we can never afford that. And then they go back and they talk to their designer, and they realize that the conversations that they've just had about proportion and scale, that person doesn't have, and they end up coming back and go, okay, well, we do want you to help us. And then there's this, oh my gosh, that's so expensive. Oh, I get it.
Oh,
Oh yeah, okay. Yes, we
totally
do
worth
want.
it.
Yeah, it's
No,
worth it. Worth it.
you can't afford to not. Honestly,
Amen.
can't afford to not. Like I tell people all the time, like your house, like let's say it's even it's the most we work with, as you do as well, very successful people. When they're working with us and they're building their personal home, it's the most money they've personally spent ever in their life. I don't care how wealthy they are. And it's like kind of stressful for them. And no matter how big of a business they've run, this process like just breaks them in ways that their own business like hasn't sometimes. Because
Yes, that's
it's just
true.
a lot of
That's true.
investment. They don't understand it. They're like, "Thank you so much for being here," type of thing. They understand they have to hire someone, but you're like, if you were going to invest $2 million, like you just had $2 million cash, and you were like, "I'm going to put somewhere," would you really not call a stockbroker? Would you really not get a financial advisor?
So
What are
true.
you doing building a home without an expert? That is hundreds of thousands of dollars. Like you have to work it into your budget. That's what I would always tell. If it's not the designers, we're kind of the last ones, even though I feel like we were very, very worth it as well. At least get an architect and a good builder. Like at the very least, I will fall on my sword and be the sacrificial lamb if I have to be. But you should have all three, and you should at least like get a consultation. Like if you can't fully bring them on, you have to consult and educate yourself. You cannot afford to skip that step. It's too much money. It's too permanent. Educate, educate, educate.
I
Yes?
love it. I love it. I love it.
Okay. Well, Brant, I've taken like an hour of your time. So
Oh,
and
this
I know
is
you have
great.
places to go, but I could talk to you for days and days about this.
I
Because
feel the
obviously,
same way. Yeah, no, well, yeah, we should too. So anyway, thank you so much. This has been awesome. Uh,
yes, I so appreciate you. I appreciate all you're doing. Like, if it weren't for you, I mean, I don't know if you know that I really refer people to you all the time. I'm just like, Brent says it
hang
better.
on.
Just
Thank you.
go listen to him. You're such a gift to all of us. Thank you so much, everyone. I hope everyone subscribes to both of our Substacks because
Yes,
they're
I love it.
so
Yeah, please,
rich.
please join both subtracks because we obviously both care about beauty, and from your side, you can transform a house with the furnishings and the colors and the things that you're doing. It's really important, and yeah, so join the substacks.
Okay. All right. Thanks so much, Brent. We'll see you later.
Okay, take care.
Okay. Bye bye.
Bye.